You're listening to Food Rebels, and welcome. This is the podcast that brings you brands, chefs, and live on-air tastings. A show that's dedicated to the more rebellious side of the food world, where we celebrate the people who have challenged the status quo. We'll be giving you a peek behind the curtains and inside the minds of the people who are shaking up our food industry. You know me, I'm the show host, AJ Sharp, taste expert, food writer, great taste food judge, and of course, business owner. I love meeting new people and tasting new foods. So, sit back as we hear more stories from people in food who dare to be different. Today on Food Rebels, we're joined by someone who isn't afraid to ruffle feathers, or fins for that matter. Ed Ayton leads sustainability and ethics at Abel and Cole, the organic trailblazers who've been shaking up the home food delivery system for over 30 years. In this episode, we're digging into what it really takes to make bold decisions from inside a business. Welcome, Ed.
Thank you very much. Hello, great to be here.
Great to be here. So how are you? Where have you been? You were just about to tell me you've been out of the office, haven't you, for a long time?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so one of the perks of my role is that I get to get out and about quite a lot. And yeah, so we are fresh out of the UK River Summit, which was down by the River Wandle yesterday.
What is the UK River Summit?
The UK River Summit is it's a collection of journalists, environmental campaigners, water board managers. It is a meeting of minds, shall we say. So I think there are two events across the year that I get really excited about, and that I walk away from thinking we're going to be okay, humanity's going to be okay, and the River Summit has become one of them. Groundswell is the other one. And it's just...
Groundswell's amazing, isn't it? Everyone says it's just such a beautiful event.
It is such a beautiful event. That's a very apt word to use. Helen Browning describes it as the place of resistance. And I would say that's a suitable moniker for the UK River Summit as well.
That's incredible. So this is where lots of the kind of leading minds... Do you get politicians there? You're all kind of coming together to talk about best practice. Is that how it works?
That's right. So it's a place where we challenge, we connect, we make change happen. And yesterday was quite a special day for us, because I called up Claire, the organizer, 2 weeks ago, and I said, Claire, I want to say a few words. Can I have just 2 minutes before lunch or between one of the panel sessions? I just want to say thank you. I want to give a message of affirmation, because it was at the first River Summit this time last year, same place, same date, by the River Wandle, that I was on stage on the food and agriculture panel, how our food production is affecting our rivers. And normally Abel and Cole is the nice brand in the room, but I was representing farmers, and agriculture has been blamed for a disproportionate amount of pollution going into our rivers. So I was there to stick up for our farmers. And at the time, there was an organisation in the room, and as soon as I clocked them, I thought, you're going to get a challenge here, Ed, get ready. And lo and behold, Wild Fish put up their hands and they said, if Abel and Cole is so proud of its work supporting rivers, why are you still selling farmed salmon? And that was the best place to have landed that particular challenge, because that was the challenge. So I thought, right, I need to connect with these people now. So I connected with Wild Fish afterwards, and they showed me plenty of evidence to show that open net salmon farming is an unfolding ecological disaster that Abel and Cole just simply cannot be associated with anymore. And it was a year down the line yesterday that I was able to stand up in front of the crowd and say, this time last year, you challenged us, we connected, you made change happen. So keep going. It's working. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's working.
That's fantastic, isn't it? Because how else does change happen if someone doesn't call it out? And sure, it may have been an awkward question last year, but how incredible a message does that send to everybody to do, just 12 months later to stand up and be like, we listened, we heard, we did our own research. Turns out you were right. We've now made all this change. It's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think when I saw the invitation from Food Rebels, I thought, okay, this is a recording I'm going to really enjoy. Very much a rebellious streak. So yeah, it was good. It was a great event. But you've highlighted there that challenging and not being afraid to challenge is definitely an important step. But the next important step is to connect. I think too many of us in the sustainability world, we tell people what they shouldn't do. We're constantly challenging, we're constantly antagonizing, but we very rarely offer a better way forward. And I think that's why this move away from open net salmon farming, I think everyone needs to know how it started and how we did it, because this is how we change the world. And it starts firstly with refreshing honesty. It
Mm.
starts with asking the question, am I wrong?
It's really interesting. Just before we go on, because I want to understand more about what you've done there, can you just explain to us what it is about Abel and Cole that makes it different to other similar services?
Oh, how long have you got? We like to think that we're different in every possible way. Firstly, it starts with how the food is farmed. So we like to think that we sell food done right, and that really starts with the soil. It starts with biodiversity. It starts with the environment. You've then got to look at who's growing your food. Who are we working with? So we've worked with some suppliers for up to over 20 years, and in that time, those relationships have only ever grown stronger because we believe in working with farmers to forecast what they're able to do over the following year, and we like to stick to those orders as much as possible. So we're not pushing people out of business. The transaction has to work both ways.
Mm.
And yeah, so we now work with about 440, 450 suppliers across the year, all different shapes and sizes. And the food that they produce for us, because it's been grown well and it's been grown with the right attitude, more importantly, it's incredibly good food. And I think that has a real power when we send it to the customer. It connects them with how their food's been grown. It connects them with each other. So yeah, I think when you optimize for good food, you get these beautiful emergent outcomes, and that's really our mission is food done right. But it doesn't just stop with how we buy the food or who we sell it to, and how it's also how we move food around. So
Yeah.
we don't air freight. Um, we send stuff out in specially designed vans that operate on a round, not delivery slots. So we haven't got vans zipping all over town honoring times. So every little thing that we do tries to reduce the impact of getting good food out to as many people as possible.
Which is, of course, absolutely critical. Um, how much is it important? You were always organic pioneers. Are you still always organic? And is organic still what we need to be looking for in our food?
Yeah, by and large it is, because the most important reason organic is still a very important term in the food world is because it's legally protected. So there are there are an abundance of green marketing terms. So environmental, eco-friendly, green. None of these are legally protected, which means that anyone can use them without any threat, apart from maybe misleading advertising. But we've got regulatory bodies without much teeth, so no one's really pulling people up on that at the moment. Even with the Green Claims Code and a lot of activity in that area, there are still people out there who are using these terms to mislead the public just to sell more products.
Mm.
Organic stands head and shoulders above every other marketing term because you cannot use the word. You can't say organic food and drink. You can't say organically farmed. You cannot use the word in the context of food and drink unless you are certified by a governing body. And that's important because that means that there's a respected independent third party validating how it's being grown, what it's being grown with, and that monitoring carries all the way down the food chain. So organic is still a hugely important term to look for, and we will always prioritize organic, except that we also believe in nuance. So we don't take labels at face value. We dig deep. We have
Okay.
our own decision-making filters that go above and beyond, is it organic? So is it regenerative? As in, does it put back more than it takes out? Regenerative, there's a word we need to watch out for. But
Yeah,
to
that's a
us, yeah, it's a bit of a it can be used to mislead the public sometimes, but again, it's not legally protected. But to us, it has to be deeply regenerative. Does it put back more than it takes out for soil health, for biodiversity, for carbon emissions, for social justice? So regenerative is one of the first things we look for. Is it innovative? Is it solving a problem? Is it traceable? Do we have full traceability right back to the soil it's grown in?
when you
And
say
is it holistic?
innovative, I
Yep.
mean it's fruit and vegetable and it's meat and other things that you guys deliver. What do you mean by innovative?
So if we look at how food is produced, all food production has an impact. Everything we do on this planet has an impact.
Mm-hmm.
But the ecosystems around our food production, the ecosystems that we grow our food in, they have this amazing ability to bounce back. The ecosystems are resilient because of the biodiversity. And that means that our waste is removed in these natural cycles, the nitrogen cycle, the water cycle. And it means that the resources that we're using to grow that food are also replenished in timely manner. And they're replenished in a way that future generations will be able to do exactly the same. That's the definition of sustainability. However, over the last few years, we've seen demand have a pretty weird impact on food production. And intensive farming. Intensive farming is basically farming that's externalized the costs. So you're growing grain to feed cattle, but you're using up, it might take up a little bit of area in the UK, but you're using up huge areas of land outside the UK. You've externalized the cost. And intensive farming has pushed a lot of our food production to beyond what these natural cycles can handle, to beyond what these ecosystems can replenish and deal with. And that is unsustainable. So when we say innovative, we look at what problems is our food producing causing. And one of the issues that we found was open net salmon farming. It's having such a drastic impact on the ecosystems around it in a lot of different ways, in ways that are getting worse and worse, and ways that we're seeing certifications not help with. So by innovative, we mean we're looking at the problem. How do we move not just our own business, but all of our customers in a better direction?
That's incredible. I mean, the open net farming of salmon has been going on for many years, hasn't it? My understanding is it's like a net has created an enormous swimming pool effect out in the middle of the sea, and then you've got an unnatural number of fish in that area, creating way too much waste. Is that? I mean, tell me about why open net farmed salmon is not good.
Yeah, I mean, you've pretty much summed it up there. I think that word net is very, very illustrative. That's exactly what they are. They are these mesh nets that are situated normally off the coast, but sometimes in the estuaries of rivers as well. And the idea is that this flow moving through the nets, it keeps the animal, keeps the fish in a relatively natural condition, natural part of their habitat. And the idea is that this flow, this current, is supposed to remove the waste, send it out to sea, and then you harvest the fish, and they're all kept in these beautiful, picturesque locks, and it's all very aesthetic. And you think this is how we want to grow our food. But then you look beneath the surface, and I think I think most people are aware of the issues with the waste building up around these farms, because the waste can just fall through the nets. You do have this density of fish producing this excrement, and in some parts of the world that can build up underneath these nets very, very quickly. And obviously, the more that the industry expands, the more unscrupulous they are choosing these locations. And what you end up with is these dead spots, this excrement, this uneaten food, this fish poo, sometimes medication as well. It builds up, it uses up a lot of oxygen, and it kills the area underneath the nets. So we've known about this effect for quite a while, but if you put these nets into certain parts of the river where the flow is stronger, which is what organic certification requires, then you don't really get that effect. However, over the last few years, we've seen emerging problems. So as the seas in our part of the world warm up, we're seeing new pests, like these microjellies, they're called. The impact of sea lice is also getting worse. So these fish are not just exposed to natural currents, they're also exposed to wild pests and diseases. So these pests, particularly sea lice, they infect the salmon inside the nets. So you have this pool, this collection of animals harboring these pests and diseases that can then reinfect the wild fish swimming past the nets. So there's this exchange of pests and diseases that is really harming wild salmon, Atlantic salmon populations. The worst impact, though, is something that we've only really started to see the impacts of, and I think we've underestimated the impact on this for a long time, and that's because these nets are out at sea, they're quite exposed to weather conditions. Believe it or not, you do get a few storms out at sea. And you think we get storms in inland, you should see what happens when they're out at sea. It's quite violent. So these nets, they're not very good at keeping hold of all of the fish in these conditions. Some do escape, and they can breed with their wild populations. So you've got wild fish which have been bred, which have evolved over millions of years. They've evolved this level of fitness to swim back upstream and breed, and then they die. And that's a natural part of their life cycle. And that process it represents a huge exchange of nutrients from the sea, upland, and onto the land. So they grow in the sea, they collect the nutrients, they then swim back upstream. And these migrations are huge. I mean, they used to be a lot more significant. People say that you could stand by a river and you wouldn't see the end of the shoal of fish, the salmon run they call it. You wouldn't see the end of it for days. So this huge volume of nutrients being exchanged from sea to land. You've got these wild fish that have evolved to do this over millions of years. They then breed with the fish that have escaped from the farms. And these farmed fish, they're not bred to swim up waterfalls. They're bred to fatten in half their usual lifespan. They're bred for production. So you've got genetics for production, breeding with wild genetics. And because these domesticated salmon don't get far upstream, it means that the loss of genetic fitness has been quite slow. But it's now got to the point that the wild salmon have so much of these domesticated genes in them that they can no longer get back to their usual breeding grounds. And that means that this exchange of nutrients has almost been completely arrested in a lot of our rivers. Norway, Iceland, Canada, Tasmania, Scotland is now seeing the loss of the wild Atlantic salmon. And that is, in large part, not completely down to the farms. There's a lot of, we're really messing our rivers around in a lot of ways. But the salmon farms, this loss of genetic fitness, this is having a huge impact on the wild Atlantic salmon. And when you think about this transfer of nutrients, they represent a keystone species. This is an incredibly important natural event that has now been stopped. And that impact on biodiversity, that was the final nail in the coffin for us. We just couldn't be associated with that practice.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you've now moved to a land farm salmon. So you still sell salmon?
So we do still sell it. Yeah. So this was the difficult conversation that we had to have internally. So we were challenged on stage. Why are you still selling farm salmon? Given everything that we know about the impact on wild salmon populations, why are we still selling it? Given everything that our brand stands for, particularly this being our year for biodiversity. And I defended it at the time by saying that it's organically certified. So we have that barrier. And we can't just get rid of a product overnight. So we have to bring people with us. If we just stopped selling it, again, like I said, people would just go elsewhere. So how do we bring people on the journey with us? We're promoting wild coho and sockeye salmon. We don't sell wild Atlantic salmon. But the coho and sockeye salmon that we get comes from Alaska. It's sourced through Stoller Discretion, who are a truly expert partner that we just really love working with. So we've got the wild options. We're also promoting other farmed alternatives like trout, rainbow trout is absolutely delicious. We get ours from the chalk streams in Hampshire, and they've been doing it down there for decades. They get regularly tested by the Environment Agency, and they just come up trumps in the results. So we're happy to promote that as an alternative. But then we also thought we could push people towards wild salmon and trout, but they are different fish. They cook differently, they taste differently. And whenever I was talking to people about what we're doing with our salmon, you could just see their eyes they just glazed over, and they're like, Ed, don't take our salmon away, it's delicious. And I thought, you know what, you're absolutely right, it is delicious. I agree. Unspeakable tragedies happening in its name, but it is delicious. And we have to make sure that we bring people on that journey to find a more suitable alternative. And that's why we started looking in the right place at the right time at what was happening in Iceland. So we, until now, had not really considered land-based options because they're very energy and water intensive. So you need a reliable, renewable source of power. You need lots of clean seawater and lots of clean fresh water. And it turns out that the Reykjanes Peninsula in Iceland is absolutely perfect for this because you've got all the resources you need in abundance. So abundant that you can extract them relatively sustainably, as in you won't have much of an impact.
Wow.
And we started looking at this one particular farm that they get the seawater from these boreholes near the coast, and the seawater percolates through about 300 meters of lava rock. So it's completely cleaned, no pests, no diseases, goes into the tanks, gently warmed by the geothermal activity. And that geothermal activity also powers the farm. So the whole of Iceland is renewably powered. So we've got an abundance of clean seawater. They've also got these underground rivers as well that they tap into. So you've got clean fresh water. The whole thing is reliably and renewably powered. So in very, very particular circumstances, land-based can be done well, and it does represent a better option, particularly in the context of moving people away from the open net. So we've got a source of farm salmon now that doesn't have the biodiversity impact. It's completely removed from the wild fish. These are closed systems. It doesn't suffer from the same sea lice issues. It doesn't suffer from the same welfare issues. And we know this because if you look at the open net farms, some of them are now reporting losing up to 86% of their stock. So on the open net farms, we found evidence, publicly available evidence, saying that one farm in 2024 lost 86% of their livestock. That is just unacceptable. So in that context, moving to land-based, if done well, is a really, really good idea. But one of the things that we absolutely had to prioritize was making sure that it tasted good.
Yeah.
We had the feedback.
What did your customers say?
Well, the customers have said yes. So we came up with this strategy to move away from it. We took it to the directors. We then went to the board. Everyone said yes, this is great. Let's move forward with this. But the ultimate decision maker is obviously your customer. And we took it to them about a month ago. We switched everyone over. So everyone who was buying the open net stuff from us, we switched them over. And it went down very well because not only is it just as, if not more, delicious, it's also a little bit cheaper. And obviously, as well as taste and welfare and sustainability, we also have to bear cost in mind. But yeah, I think when you're selling people something with a sustainability premium, you have to make sure they're going to enjoy it. You have to make sure the quality and the taste is there. So that's one thing that we prioritized alongside biodiversity and welfare.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, that's something Abel and Cole is obviously really known for, is that the quality of the food is really good. You've got, beautiful tomatoes that are going to be ripe and all that kind of stuff, which is amazing. Can everyone across the whole UK get Abel and Cole? Is it UK-wide deliveries?
It's not UK-wide, so we're not in Scotland. So we do most of England, a little bit of Wales. If you head to the Abel and Cole website, we've got a postcode checker in our FAQ, and that's the best place to tell you, not just if we deliver to you or not, but what delivery day will be in your area as well, because because we're only in one area one day of the week. Again, it reduces the impact of the service quite dramatically.
Yeah, amazing. And is there anything else in your year of biodiversity that you're hoping? I mean, how far are you through the year? Did it start in January? Have you already nailed it by July?
Yeah, so it feels like we peaked, but I don't think we have, because I actually went to the team with the idea for the year in biodiversity a month too late. So we started it in February. So we've got another month in 2026 to enjoy it with, but the journey we've been on this year has been fantastic. We've also launched ibis rice, which is a truly revolutionary product. So they work with about 7,000 Cambodian farmers. They work direct, so there's no middleman taking their piece of the cake. So the price is really, really good. They've reduced deforestation in Cambodia by about 75% in the last 2-3 years, which is just phenomenal. We don't see anything like that. So they're supporting the small scale farmers, reducing deforestation. They've seen an increase in critically endangered species like the giant ibis, which is Cambodia's national bird. So that's where the term ibis rice comes from. We've also started working with Farm Wilder, who are working with farmers across the southwest. So this is us sourcing from farmers who are practicing conservation grazing. So livestock, if well managed, can play a really important role in ecosystems, and creating this mosaic habitat that really supports biodiversity in the best way. So we wanted to make sure that we're working with these farmers, and Farm Wilder is a community interest company that has done just that. So yeah, we're bringing on some amazing brands. I mean, we've also had some really cool internal projects. We put a wildlife hedge in here back in February, a dead hedge as well. We had plans for a pond too. So yeah, we've got lots of internal engagement, lots of social activity, loads of great, really cool products that I think anyone would be really happy to check out.
I think it's really fascinating. We have last week we had Dr. Dolly Van Tulleken, who supported Chris Van Tulleken on the writing of Ultra Processed People. Big fan of these guys, of what they're doing to. We talk a lot on the show about UPF and how practically and sensibly and reasonably all of us at home can affect any change or very slowly make swaps. I mean, I feel like you guys are really kind of in the heart of this conversation without really meaning to be, in that you are all about the opposite of UPF. You're all about real food, like real, organic, genuinely non-chemical, non-processed food. I mean, you're having to push radical change from inside the system. What's been the hardest part of this so far? Have you come up against this at all?
That's a really good question. I think that the UPF work has been. We did a bit of a dive into our where we stand on ultra processed foods. I think it's the hardest bit is coming up with the solution. So like I alluded to earlier, it's very easy for someone to say you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't eat this. And the ultra processed work, it's a great example actually, because while we were exploring the range, we have these very black and white definitions for UPF, like does it contain one ingredient that's not found in a kitchen cupboard? I mean, I have sunflower lecithin in my cupboard, but apparently I'm quite weird. So for me, it means something completely different than it would be to my neighbour. But if you look at the back of a gluten-free baguette, I can't even pronounce half the ingredients, but I know they keep people alive. So it's important that we look at, so nuance, I think, is something that we don't struggle to bring into the conversations because that's our brand. But when we take these conversations outside the business, it's I wouldn't say it's difficult. I'd say it's a challenge that we absolutely relish. It's getting people to step away from broad strokes. These are not binary problems. They certainly don't have binary solutions. So yeah, I'd say bringing that word nuance into the conversations, that's the biggest challenge, but one that we absolutely love.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your time today, Ed. It's been absolutely fascinating.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for the chat.
Thank you so much for listening. You've been listening to Food Rebels, which is available on radio stations around the UK and further afield. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Audible. Please remember to subscribe and rate us with 5 stars or follow us. It makes such a difference, not just to our podcast and radio show, but it really helps to support the guests that come on the show with us. We're also on Instagram at food_rebels. So give us a follow, do get in touch. We love hearing from you and let us know what you think. Thanks so much for joining us and make sure you taste the rebellion.